Welcome back to some new Malicious Compliance Stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called On-Call Program. My husband was the on-call person from 5:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day on his days off, Saturday, Sunday and Monday, and 5:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. Tuesday to Friday, which he gets $20 a day just to be on call. If he had to punch in to take a call out, it was normal pay. His work started calling him on his work phone to answer quick questions on his days off. It got to the point where the phone was ringing 3 to 8 times a day. I finally said, "This is your day off. Stop answering your phone." He wasn't being paid to do this. It took a bit, but he shut his phone off until his on-call hours. Then they started to call his personal phone. That did it. He told the bosses that unless he was being paid his hourly wage, he would not answer phone calls on his off time and to stop calling his personal phone. They got mad and decided to stop the on-call program. Now, when there is an emergency, the call-out center has to call through the seniority list to try to find someone to take the job. The problem is that only 4 people know how to fix certain issues because it's an antiquated system that is being phased out. First guy is just biding his time to retirement, so he doesn't take call-outs. My husband is second, and he passes. Third lives 2 hours from the garage, and he's not going to drive that. And number 4 is also biding his time to retire. So, back around again. Everyone passes. Third time, they can force the lowest person to take the job, but they have to pay time and a half plus night differential. Oops, number 4 has had a drink. So, number 3, no answer. My husband? Well, he guesses he can take the $50+ an hour plus the night differential. And after 50 regular hours, he gets time and a half, so he gets the extra half on top of his 1.5 with differential to equal about $130 plus per hour. They could have just given him $20 a day to be on call, not bothered him during the day, then they would have only had to pay him normal wages. Idiocy. The next story is called Black Footwear. When I was younger, I worked in an office for a printing company. My boss was notorious for his strict adherence to company policies, particularly when it came to dress code. One day he made an announcement that all employees must wear black footwear with no exceptions. This rule caught my attention, and I decided to have some fun at my boss's expense, because he really was an awful micromanaging boss. So the next day I walked into the office wearing black flippers instead of traditional black shoes, which is clearly how black footwear is meant to have been interpreted. As I made my way down the hallways, all my colleagues couldn't help but burst into laughter. The sight of a professional employee strutting around in flippers was too amusing to resist. Word quickly spread, and soon everyone was giggling and peeking out of their cubicles to catch a glimpse of my act of defiance. When the boss caught sight of my unconventional footwear, his face turned bright red with anger. He stormed over, reins pulsating on his forehead and everything, ready to shout. However, before he got the chance to say anything, I pointed out that I was indeed following his policy of wearing black footwear. I think he was close to completely losing it, because he stormed off into his office, grunting like a warthog. Technically, I had complied with his instructions, and there was no explicit mention of traditional footwear in the policy. He couldn't take any disciplinary action without seeming unfair. My colleagues found the situation even more hilarious at this point. I got many compliments for outsmarting our strict boss. From that day forward, my act of malicious compliance became legendary in the office. It sparked a newfound sense of rebellion, with employees pushing the boundaries of the dress code in hilarious and imaginative ways. Some wore black sneakers with flashing LED lights, while others donned black high-heeled slippers. The office became a more vibrant and joyful place, with employees embracing their individuality while technically adhering to his directives. The absurdity of the situation left him fuming, but he didn't want to look stupid by changing his policy again so quickly. We didn't see him in the main office much after that day. In the end, I hoped he learned an invaluable lesson about the importance of specifics and clarity. But a week later, he was gone. He was replaced by a lovely lady that found this whole situation very funny and complimented us all on how good the morale was here. The third story is called Get Him a Phone. I worked at a smaller factory where I was the logistics and purchasing manager. The problem area was on the logistics side of things. Anyone who has had to deal with trucking brokers or companies understands that things don't always work out as planned. So it goes without saying that I would get calls pretty much 24/7 on my personal cell. So I go to my boss and say since I'm basically on call 24/7, I should get a company phone. He said that I don't really need a company phone since most of the calls came during normal business hours. This was true on the purchasing side, but not on the truck side, which I told him. I left that meeting with the understanding that I was expected to take care of all business calls during normal hours. Come Friday, all my trucks were set up for the weekend and it was time to go home. I put my phone on mute and didn't answer a single call from trucking companies or brokers all weekend. I polished my resume in anticipation of my termination. Monday morning rolls around and the first thing, the boss calls me into a conference call with HR. I'm ready for the hammer to drop. Boss asked me why pickups and drops were not on time or picked up at all. I said I didn't know because I didn't answer any calls from vendors since it was outside normal business hours. HR asked if this has happened often. Boss says not often, but does from time to time. HR asks what happened this weekend. Boss says that he will let me explain it. I go through the whole company phone thing with HR. HR asks if they get me a phone and this won't happen again. I say I can't guarantee loads won't get dropped, but I can tell you that it will never be this bad because I can work on solutions as they come up, instead of having to chase them on Monday morning. HR tells boss to get me a phone. The next story is called Only on the Clock. The job I do requires tons and tons of communication, coordination, and often a lot of things are time sensitive. So often, if one of us can't get a hold of someone, we are absolutely screwed. So it has been the norm for us to communicate in advance so we can plan out our day. It was never a big deal to us, as it only just takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to confirm everything is going as planned, or be informed of any changes a few hours before we start the day. This is more to make our life and work easier for everybody. About 2 months ago, the company decided that we aren't allowed to use our work phone, unless on the clock. They cracked down on everyone who did it aggressively. The supervisors and managers would even call or send a text to employees when they aren't on the clock, just to test us. Anyone who replied would be written up. No matter how much we complained, they refused to budge or listen at all. They get the final saying. Grudgingly, we all agreed to follow the policy. No surprise, everybody decided to just stop replying to their phone as soon as their shift is over. Surprise, surprise. Nearly everybody has been late pretty much every day. A lot of appointments have been missed. Tons of mistakes have been made because nobody was able to get the answer they need. Clients start to complain like crazy. The office and managers were immediately slammed with tons of phone calls and getting very behind on everything. This week we all were hauled into a meeting. They were asking us what they can do to help us fix this mess. We were all mad about the whole thing, as it wasn't a fun time for us either. Most of us just basically told them we want them repeatedly, and they weren't having it. So they can clean this mess up. They tried to suggest a special code, so we know if it's extremely urgent. But no one wants to carry their personal phone and work phone around all the time just for a special case. In fact, most of us told them we just turn the phone off or put it on mute as soon as we get home. They tried to float the idea of making all of us salary, which was immediately shut down as they have a horrible history of overworking their salary workers. They tried to ask us if we are willing to go back to the old way. It didn't go well either, as there were mixed reactions. Some were cool with the idea, some were like, absolutely not, unless I'm getting paid for that time. And some just flat out don't want to deal with phones when they aren't on the clock at all. The meeting ended without anything being fixed. Now the CEO and HR and other upper managers have been pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to navigate this delicate mess. It was so glorious to watch them running into the wall repeatedly over stupid adjustments that nobody wants. The last story is called Extra Well Done. During my first kitchen job, many moons ago, a server came to the back and stated that their customer wanted their burger extra well done. It was slow and I was bored, so I'll be sure to take care of it. The first step was to cook it regularly on the flat grill. Once it was overcooked and dry, I tossed it in the fryer for a minute, then took it out and threw it on the char grill. It flamed up nicely. Then it went back to the flat grill before being plated up. I assured the waiter that I did as the customer requested, honestly thinking it would be sent back. Wouldn't you know it, their waiter came walking back to tell me that the customer had asked them to go talk to the cook about their burger. It was perfect. No one had ever cooked it like they wanted until then. Task failed successfully, I guess. I used the same technique one other time at a different job and received the same feedback. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.